Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Influential Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Duncan, and each week I sit down and chat with a mom who is making a difference, and each mom shares her challenges and favorite tips and tricks for making motherhood a little easier. This week, I'm back from the Thanksgiving weekend, which was busy but fun for our family, as I'm sure it was for yours. And as we head into the final stretch toward Christmas, I'm just trying to remember things don't have to be perfect. And I'm reminding myself that what my kids will remember are the family memories we make by being together and celebrating what the holiday season is all about. I hope you enjoy this week's chat with YouTuber Whitney Meade. We're comparing our notes on our Lyme disease journeys, her autoimmune disease, what it's like to be a full-time YouTuber, and how she manages working with her husband, which I used to do as well. So we're comparing notes on that too. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. On today's episode of Influential Motherhood, I'm here with Whitney Meade, and Whitney is a mom of two and an entrepreneur with her husband, which I love because my audience knows that I have that in common with Whitney. And she's a YouTuber who is known for her Daily Devo channel and is also known for her speaking ministry. So, Whitney, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome. I'm excited to have you here, and I think that the timing of this recording here and the holiday season is completely appropriate because I think you're going to be able to kind of talk us through, what it's like in the busyness of the season to kind of remember why we celebrate, but also to give us just some tips on, your own experiences and the busyness that you experience as an entrepreneur with your husband and what things are like for you making a daily YouTube video, which is just amazing to me.
So, well, I've walked this road for a while, so I sure hope I can help some people.
Well, good. So before we really get started kind of unpacking all the things that I think we can talk about tonight, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit more about you and your family so we can get to know you?
Thank you. So my husband, Chris, and I live in the suburbs of Charleston, South Carolina, and we have two little girls. One is almost 9, and one is 5, Livingston and Millie. And I have to make a side note that both of their first names are actually Kate and Camilla. So if that lets you know anything about me, I love the royal family so much. And I have no shame in admitting that my children are somewhat named after her royal highnesses.
I love that.
Yes. No shame in my game. So Chris and I, my husband and I, do own a few businesses together. One is a Christian pop rock radio station in Florence, South Carolina. And it's on 92.5 FM, and it is a Christian pop rock worship station. So it's a little bit cooler than what you would hear on like regular contemporary Christian radio. So we like to say that we're not targeting the moms in the front seat of the van. We're targeting the kids in the back seat. But what happens is the moms end up falling in love with the music too, which is really, really cool.
And then they choose to turn it on.
They do. Yeah, it's fun to listen to. And then we also have a video production company called Meade Agency. And that's kind of our bread and butter. The radio station's a nonprofit, but our video production is our main business, the main company that we run together. And Chris kind of does the day-to-day operations. He's out on set filming with our crew and handling clients. And I did manage clients for a while, but I've rotated out of that role. And now I'm just running operations from a business standpoint. So I work on the big proposals and human resources and all that fun stuff.
Wow, that is a lot. That's a lot. And I'm excited to unpack all of this. Lots to chat about tonight because there's just so much that your family has going on, but y'all are doing such great work. So I actually want to start with something that I don't think you just mentioned in your intro, but is actually the way that I found you to begin with. So this summer, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease after an unfortunate round of yard work that resulted in a massive bullseye rash on my back. And in the midst of me kind of talking about that on my Instagram stories, someone said, you should connect with Whitney Meade because she has battled Lyme disease. And ironically, it took me a couple of days to find you, but the day that I found you, you had recorded a few Instagram stories about kind of updates on your journey. So
yes.
You were just kind of this like right place, right time blessing to me in terms of, just hearing about your story. And then we were just chatting before we hit record that I sent you like 2 desperate messages of just kind of like, I'm also suffering, kind of thing. And you were so kind to encourage me through that. So I wanted to hear more about your story. And as I understand it, it actually involves more than Lyme disease.
It does.
So can you kind of walk us through your journey and kind of what else is going on and how these things are or are not interconnected and kind of where you are with all of this today?
I would love to. 2 years ago, in the spring of 2017, I went out to Las Vegas with my family to celebrate an award my dad was receiving. And after we returned home from our trip, I felt like someone had just knocked the wind out of me. It almost felt like I had mono. I had mono in high school. It felt like that same depth of tiredness.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden I started gaining weight, like rapidly gaining weight. I
wow.
gained about 30 pounds over the course of 3 months and with no change to diet or exercise. And it was shocking to me. And I was very just distraught over it because I was like, what in the world is going on? This doesn't make any sense. There should be no reason that I'm gaining this weight. There's no reason I should be this tired. I mean, I know I'm a young mom and I know we have a lot going on, but this just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Thankfully, and this is just one of those like divine appointments, my dad had been seeing a functional medicine physician or what's called a naturopath. And this doctor is actually triple board certified. He's an ex-ER physician who just got tired of treating people's symptoms in the ER. And he opened an integrative medicine practice. So I bypassed my regular doctor, went straight to him and said, I'm in the middle of a health crisis and I don't know what to do or who to turn to. I'm so confused. What's going on? So he just put me through, he took a huge comprehensive medical history all the way back to when I was a child, like all the way back to a concussion I got when I was 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
That thorough of a medical history, and did an array of testing and called me back about 2 weeks later and said, I have some bad news. You have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune disease where the thyroid is basically attacked by the body. So my body is actively attacking my thyroid.
Oh, okay.
Which, if you don't know what a thyroid is a butterfly-shaped gland that is almost kind of over where the Adam's apple portion of your throat is.
Okay.
And the thyroid controls everything in your body, like everything in your body. And so it was just totally out of whack. I also, because of the Hashimoto's, was hypothyroid, which would explain the weight gain, which means my thyroid was underactive. And he said, now your blood test is negative, but I strongly believe that you have Lyme disease. And I was like, Lyme disease?
Yeah.
I've never been bitten by a tick before. And he was like, well, I don't think you've been bitten by a tick recently. I think you were bitten a long time ago, like high school, and it's just been latent in your system. And I didn't understand how I could have a negative a negative Lyme disease test and still be positive. Well, what I've learned since then is that the testing that they use, the testing standards that the CDC uses, is most of the time called the Western blot test. And it basically tests different bands of the blood to see if they react. And you have to have so many bands that react on a test. And most people, they don't get enough bands that light up to actually get a positive result, even though they actually do have Lyme disease. So the testing is totally antiquated. It needs to be redone. It's this huge controversy in the medical field right now.
That's horrible.
But what's great about it is that a ton of senators, like this is affecting a bunch of people across the nation right now. Well, a few senators have actually had Lyme disease, or their families have had Lyme disease. And so they're bringing this up before Congress right now to try to get the testing standards kind of brought up to speed, which is wonderful.
That's awesome.
Anyways,
that makes me want to stand up and clap.
It is. It's great. But the problem is if you have a negative test, even though you have it, your insurance isn't going to touch it.
Yeah.
So I was facing down this who knows how long treatment with zero insurance support. I had to pay 100% out of pocket for everything. And I was so sick. I just can't even describe to you how sick I was. I mean, because you experienced it. It's a silent, what I like to call a silent disease, because from the outside you look like you're okay, but you feel all you want to do is lay in bed all day long. I mean, I couldn't even take a shower without needing to get back into bed after I took a shower. That's how sick I was.
Yeah.
And so I did a bunch of different treatments. I did 7 months of very intense antibiotic treatment. I did a few different herbal protocols, all of it lasting about 2.5 years. And thankfully today I am 99% better than I was 2.5 years ago. I can actually function again, but there were a lot of lifestyle changes that I had to make as well. One of them being I had to cut back my work in half. I had to start working part-time. Thankfully, we work for ourselves. And so I was able to do that. But we did lose clients because they were like, well, Whitney's my girl. Like, I don't want to work with anybody else. That's who I signed up to work with. And so it was a tough, rocky business road. It was a tough personal road. It was hard to be the attentive mother that I wanted to be. It was hard to be the wife that I wanted to be and that I knew I could be. But what the fruit that has come out of it is that I have been able to talk to, my YouTube videos about Lyme have reached thousands of people. And so because I walked that road, people are now actually learning more about it and they're becoming aware about it. And, I just think that it's just one of those good things that can come out of a really bad situation.
I think so too. And I'm grateful that people like you are, talking about it and helping to spread, not only your experience, but the information that is so helpful. Because I know for me, when I went in with this, rash that I went to the dermatologist because I was just kind of like, I don't know.
It looks like a rash.
Yeah. And I remember the day that I went in, it wasn't quite a bullseye yet. But it was this like 8-inch across, massive rash. And he was like, well, how do you feel? And I was like, I'm an assistant dean at a law school. I've got 2 kids. Like, it takes a lot to slow me down. And I just kind of remember saying like, I don't know, maybe like 95%, because I didn't feel great, but I hadn't yet reached the point where I was totally knocked on my back by it. And like the whole, I hadn't yet gotten a fever, which came like the next day. And he was like, oh, well, that's not so bad. And he kind of just acted like, I don't know, may or may not be Lyme disease. And then when the bullseye appeared, from what I was reading online, it was like, well, once you see the bullseye, you have Lyme disease, because it's kind of the only actual telltale sign that there is. And then the next day, I was just like you said, it was like, I told somebody, I said, I feel like I have the flu times 1,000. And I had a fever and my joints ached and I was just in the bed, like writhing in pain. And it just felt so odd to me that I couldn't find a lot of information that felt really reliable about it. And I remember feeling so frustrated because I was like, this is insane. Thankfully, I caught mine, early, but people who live with chronic Lyme disease and for years and don't know it, just how maddening it must be to feel like that and not know why, and not be able to find a whole lot of reliable, like concrete information is so frustrating. So,
and there's not a lot of concrete information out there. And that is what's so hard. You are so lucky that you had a bullseye. So many people don't get a bullseye rash, and I didn't get one. And my, other people that I know didn't get it. And so I don't know the statistic off the top of my head, but I want to say that it's a very slim number of people actually do get the bullseye rash. So I'm so thankful that you did get that, because at least you knew, oh, okay, this could be Lyme disease, because other than, it could look like, a lot of people think that it's fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome or adrenal fatigue, and all those things can accompany Lyme disease, but most of the time Lyme disease is the root cause.
Oh, it's insane. Wow.
Yes. So if anybody is listening to this and you're like, I don't feel well and my joints are achy and I'm running a low-grade fever all the time, go get tested for Lyme disease.
Yes. And it sounds like, from what I've been able to gather just in my education of it, that people who have talked to their doctor about doing a treatment, even if, like you did, even if the test is negative, to do a treatment anyway to see if it starts to improve is oftentimes a good step in the right direction, because worst case scenario, it's not, hitting the mark, but best case scenario, now you're treating something, because with those false negatives, it's just so frustrating. So it sounds like you had a great doctor. So I'm glad that he advocated for you to, get all the right diagnosis and treatments. And thank you.
I'll give
again.
him a plug. His name is Dr. Yusuf Salibi, JP Salibi with Carolina Holistic Medicine. And he's got an office in Cary, North Carolina, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and Murrells Inlet, South Carolina.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I'm interested to see if I have any long-term, kind of fallout from this. Because I will say the next month I ended up getting I don't even know that I ever really had a cold, but I got a cough, and I'm still dealing with the cough. Like I'm not a person to get sick and stay sick, but it turned into this. It went on for months, really. I actually ended up with a couple of other weekends of low-grade fevers, even after I had finished my round of doxycycline. And I thought, like, this has got to all be related. So I'm hoping. I
believe that it is. Yeah. And it has changed the way that I have to take care of myself. And I'm almost at the 3-year mark right now, but I have had to completely change the way that I live my life. I have to go to bed and get 8 hours of sleep a night, which sounds so, as a young mom, it's kind of like, well, sleep is the thing we have to give up if we want to actually have, some time by ourselves at nighttime, or one of those. It's just one of those things that I'm like, okay, well, I have to go to bed at 9:30 or 10 o'clock. And my husband graciously lets me sleep in until 8:30 on Saturday morning so that I can get a little bit of extra sleep. I have to take vitamins and supplements. I have to exercise. I have to move. There are just certain things that I have to do to take care of myself now, because it can flare again. I mean, you can have a relapse. It does stay in your body forever. It's like having mono. Yeah. It can flare again.
Wow. Well, I am grateful that you have come so far and are just, it sounds like your life it did a 180 and now it's kind of done a 180 back in a good way.
Yes.
And so I'm thankful that you got the treatment that you needed to be able to do all the things that you're able to do. So let's talk about those things. And so the first thing is your Daily Devo channel. So daily videos.
Oh
man. Okay.
It was such a huge thing to bite off. I remember telling my husband, Chris, I want to have a daily show. And he looked at me and he was like, daily show? And I was like, because at that point I was maybe putting out 1 or 2 videos a week.
Yeah.
And he was like, daily show. And I was like, And he was like 22 episodes a month. And I was like, Yep. So, thankfully we own the company. So all of that production right now is in-house, which is fantastic. But yeah, when I went to college, I wanted to be a news anchor. That was what I went to school for. And instead of going to work for a TV station after I graduated, I realized with what we had going on with the radio station that lifestyle of having to leave the house at 3 o'clock in the morning it just wasn't going to be healthy for our marriage. And so I decided to go a more traditional marketing route instead. So I worked, in a typical 8-to-5 job. But I've never really shook the idea of having my own show or having my own, being on the news or something like that. And so I've always been fascinated with YouTube. I fell in love with those YouTube makeup tutorials. Gosh, 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah,
I
could watch those all night.
all day long. I have my favorites, the people, and I've been watching these people now for, 8 or 9 years. So I feel like I know them and, it's so fun. It's so fun, but YouTube gives you the opportunity to do your own thing, and you don't have to get a contract with a network TV station. You can just film what you want and put it on the internet. And if somebody wants to watch it, they can. And maybe 4 years ago, filmed a video called How to Have a Quiet Time. I filmed it with my iPhone and a plug-in microphone that I plugged into my iPhone, clipped it on my shirt. I was so nervous that I had hives all the way up the side of my neck. So if you go watch this video, you can see I've got red splotches up my neck. And I did just a simple video on how to have a quiet time. And I uploaded it. I didn't check it for months. I don't want to say 4 or 5 months later, I opened up YouTube, and that video had 650 views, and I had 100 subscribers. And I was like, this is weird. Subscribers? People want to subscribe to my channel? What is this? And so I never really gave up on the idea of pursuing that. And so I started to slowly film content, and I dabbled in a few different styles. I did some vlogs, and I did some makeup tutorials, and I did some fashion stuff, but nothing hit home like my Christian content did. And when I was in my mid-20s, I was having a prayer time one day, and the Lord vividly spoke to me and said, I am going to make you a fisher of men. And at that moment, it was the only time anything like that had ever happened to me. This was a very not bizarre, but just a very life-altering moment for me. I was like, I'm 25 years old and you want me to be a Bible teacher? This is crazy. I am not one of those women. I'm not that good of a woman to be able to get up on stage and teach people the Bible. I love the word, and I love studying it for myself and looking up, the root words and that kind of thing. But when I would upload devotional content to YouTube, it just would take off. And so I thought, okay, maybe this is the Lord trying to nudge me in the right direction, that, yes, television is where I'm supposed to be. And yes, Bible teaching is also where I'm supposed to be, but it's supposed to be on YouTube, where I don't have to ask permission from anybody else.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I've learned about the Christian publishing community, is that it is very regulated. There are a handful of authors who get all of the books, and they get all the speaking engagements. And what I've been able to create is kind of my own thing, and been able to do it my way and with what works with our family life. And I can write when I need to write, and I can film when I need to film. And there's nobody, there's no deadlines. I set my own deadlines, which you understand with a podcast.
Yes.
You can set your own pace. And so I thought, okay, at the beginning of the summer, really, this is the end of the spring, planning for the beginning of the fall, I said to Chris, I really want to launch this devotional show, and I want to call it Daily Devo, and I want to put out 5 videos a week, Monday through Friday, first thing in the morning, so people can wake up, have a quick video, 3 to 5 minutes long, and then go about their day. And it has exploded, and I'm getting these messages from people. Just yesterday, I got a message from a girl who was a Muslim 2 years ago, who denounced her faith and just became an atheist, and started having dreams that she was in a Christian church surrounded by Christian people that she knew, and they were loving on her and talking to her. And then she was confused about this dream. And then a couple of weeks ago, she had a dream about a woman that she used to work with who was a Christian. And in the dream, the woman was dressed in these white robes, and she handed her a Bible in the dream. And she said, when I woke up, I knew that God was calling me to Christianity.
Wow.
Okay. Like, I didn't do that. But she searched for Christian videos on YouTube and found my channel. And she said,
amazing.
Which Bible translation should I read? I don't, the King James Version is confusing to me. And my native tongue is Arabic. And I said, well, let me Google it. Let me find out. And so I found the new Arabic version, which is the NAV, is very much like the NIV version. And so I said, hey, you should get an NAV Bible and good luck. And it was just the coolest thing.
Man,
it was so
amazing.
Cool. So that's just the reach that's happening that has nothing to do with my efforts other than just I'm being obedient and taking some risks and being brave and just saying, okay, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about your videos is that they don't feel forced, like it just feels like you're sitting down and just kind of, like you said, having a morning coffee with, with a friend and being encouraged in that way, which I think as moms, we all feel like if we don't take those, 5 or 10 minutes to kind of like set ourselves for the day, on the right path, that the rest of the day can feel completely chaotic. And it is chaotic, but I think it's really important for us as busy moms to take that time to kind of get ourselves on the right track, because the mornings in our house are completely chaotic. But I found that if I wake up, a few minutes earlier than everybody, and have a few minutes to pray and just to kind of think about my day and my goals and try to listen to the Lord before I start having everybody talking in my ears all day, that it just sets such a good tone for the day. So I think that's why your videos are resonating with people in such a great way.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. So are you batch recording these? Yes. Or are you doing them the day before for the next day?
So I batch film. So what I do is I write the devotionals about 2 months ahead of time.
Okay.
So for the, month, so say we're 2 months out, I write that month for 2 months later. Then the month before, we will film about, depending on how many Monday through Fridays there are in that month, we will film all of those episodes over 2 days straight.
Okay.
So I'll wake up in the morning, and we actually do film in my living room. And so my husband and our crew will load in the morning. It is a full-on production. There are lights everywhere. My best friend is a makeup artist, and we actually use her on all of our other clients all the time. She's amazing, but she is so gracious to do my makeup in the morning. So I'll sit down in the makeup chair and have some coffee. And she does my makeup, and I have all of my clothes on a clothing rack in our guest bedroom, and I'll wear yoga pants, and I just change tops in between each video. And so I'll go in the guest bedroom and change my top and put on new earrings and new jewelry, and then go back out and sit back down again. And I do film with a teleprompter.
I was going to ask,
there is no way that I could memorize that much or be fresh enough by the 8th video of the day to be able to teach off the top of my head. Now, there are moments where I go off script, which is nice. That's what's nice about a teleprompter, is you can pause and just kind of say whatever you need to say in the moment. But so we batch film, and then I do not edit. We have a guy on our crew edits everything for me, so I don't have to do that. There was a time when I did edit my videos. And I think that's just kind of a part of being a creator as you grow. One of my catchphrase in life is delegate or die. I love that phrase. And so I have learned that as the most that I can give away to let other people handle for me, the better off I am in the long run. So they edit everything for me, and then I do upload everything. I create all the thumbnails, because there's a little bit of that creativity that I still want with the channel, where only I know what the look is that I want to have.
Your fingerprint on it.
Yeah, or the titles that I want to have on there. so I do handle all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you're doing great work, and it's
Thanks.
also beautiful. You have a beautiful channel. So
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Hey guys, taking a quick break to pop in and remind you to join my monthly newsletter where I share some personal stories from this season of my own life, some of my favorite internet finds, and a roundup of the podcast for the month. Go sign up for the newsletter at www.melissaduncan.com/join. Now let's get back to the show. So, you're putting out these devotionals, and we're here in the holiday season. And so I'm thinking about, myself included, the moms who are feeling kind of mixed emotions about the holidays. I think we kind of go into it feeling like, oh, okay, I have a lot of people to please. I have a lot of expectations to meet, spouses, kids, our own parents, grandparents, friends. There's just a lot of ways we can be spread really thin through the holidays. And so what advice would you have for the moms who are listening, who are starting to get kind of wrapped up in that mentality, so that we can remember the reason for the season, which we see on little note cards and things, in the stores. But I think there's a lot of truth in that we need to remember the reason for the season. So what encouragement do you have for us?
Sure. I was just thinking about this today because I was out. I'm hosting the big family meal this year, and I was at the grocery store, and I had, a cart full of groceries. I was having to lunge and push the cart down the aisle because it was so heavy. And then I started thinking about a costume that my child needs that I have to make for a program at school. And then I started thinking about my husband's birthday. And then I started thinking about my daughter's birthday party. And all of this is happening before Christmas. And I got so overwhelmed that I started doing what I called spiral thinking. And if you could imagine, this is so perfect. Imagine a Christmas tree, except the Christmas tree is turned upside down. The Christmas tree is turned upside down, so it looks like an ice cream cone. And you start at the very top where the base is the widest, and then that's your first thought. And then as you start adding on all of those crazy thoughts, it starts spiraling faster and faster and faster, and you almost find yourself falling down into this pit of just complete overwhelm. And if you're like me, I get paralyzed. I just sit on the couch and I'm like, I don't know what I need to do today.
I have too much to do. I can't do anything.
Do I need to go to Hobby Lobby, or do I need to work on paying the bills right now? Like, it's overwhelming. I can't make a decision. And I've found that it takes one choice at a time, and you can't think about anything else. You have to focus on the next step. Yeah. And you have to realize that everything on your list is not going to get done in a day. Take your list and just take 2 or 3 things off of it for the day. Let's underachieve here. Yes. Take 2 things, maybe 1 thing. It will quickly help you realize what the priorities are really fast, and what are the things that you can let go of. Like today, I realized I don't need to go to Hobby Lobby and buy a new table runner to match my blue and white porcelain jars that I want to do for the table arrangement, because Pinterest, there's a really pretty picture on Pinterest. Like, I don't need to do that. I have beautiful chargers, and, nobody's going to care that I have a table, that 4-hour trip is what it really would take, because I'd have to drive there and shop and drive home and unload everything. that 4 hours could be spent on something else. And for me this afternoon, it was sitting down and kicking my feet up in front of the fire and watching a Hallmark show and resting so that I could be fresh for my family when they came home from work and school. And you have to be okay that sometimes rest is the best thing you can do. It's the best thing you can do. And we are so because once you become a mom and a wife and a working mom or a volunteering mom, you lose your own identity. You forget who you were before the kids and before the husband. There was a girl there once upon a time. Now, she's not the same girl anymore, and she never will be the same, and that's okay. She's a better version of you, are a better version of that girl.
Yep.
But she's still there, and she still needs a nap sometimes, and a cup of tea or a cup of coffee.
Yes.
And she needs a pair of slippers and a fire and to pet her dog and watch some Hallmark. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Since when did it have to become this rat race? You know, I mean, and we're so pressured to do it, but you know what? Everybody feels this way.
Yeah.
And if we could all just recognize that, like, we're all feeling this way, then I think we could take the pressure off of ourselves a little bit.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do really feel like sometimes we need permission from somebody, to just stop and just sit down and put our feet up. So I think you just gave us that. So
good.
Thank you for that. So the last thing I want to chat about is just the fact that you and your husband, you've kind of mentioned this throughout, that y'all have these businesses together. And before we hit record, we were kind of laughing about the fact that my husband and I started a law firm together and did that together for 6 years before I moved to my current job. And I'm curious if you get some of the same remarks that we often got.
Oh, stuff like, how in the world could you work together?
Yes. Yeah. That is the number one. Yeah. Or I could never work with my spouse.
Sure.
We would kill each other. And so we would hear that almost daily when somebody knew, whether it would be a client or just, somebody knew that we would meet, would find out that we worked together. So it sounds like y'all love it as much as we did. So I'm kind of curious, for you, what's the best part of working with your spouse?
He's my best friend. And so to get to do this part of our life together is such a joy.
Yeah.
And before I had my title of COO, I wasn't on payroll, but I certainly was running the business with him. And most women, whether they really have realized it or not, they are a huge helpmate to their spouse in whatever job they have. Even if you're in different industries and you go to different offices, you both talk to each other about work and you both give each other input and feedback. And so it's just the natural for us. It was just the natural next step for me to actually come on and get a paycheck for what I'd been doing for so long. But we have found that there are some role rules that we've put in place that have been very helpful for us. Things have always it's never been perfect, nor has it always been like smooth sailing. I mean, we're like every other healthy couple. We have fights and we, get annoyed with each other when we interrupt each other during a, serious creative session or whatever. We disagree on stuff sometimes, but we found that having separate offices with doors is very healthy, so that when the door is shut, we both know, like, don't interrupt. Both of us are kind of in our creative place, or he's on a conference call, and I don't need to interrupt him or whatever. So we keep our doors shut. We also found that being very clear about who was responsible for what was very helpful. And if we ever got into a spot where it wasn't clear, I had to say, like, Chris, I don't like doing this part. And he'd go, oh, I don't mind doing that. I'll do it. And I was like, oh, thank you. But I could have just, carried that burden for years and years. But I had to be honest with him about what that, about how I was feeling. And also, I am the go-to parent when it comes to sick children and that kind of thing. So anytime a kid needs to come home from school, I'm the one who takes one for the team and comes home, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm not complaining about that. I appreciate that I have that flexibility and I don't have to worry about missing work. But he is really great too. He'll say, you've been home for 3 days straight. Do you need, with a sick kid, do you need me to come home early this afternoon so you can get out and just go run some errands, just breathe fresh air. And I was like, yes, please. But our clients, and I'm sure you experience this too, our clients actually love working with us as a couple because my strong points really, what's the word? We both build each other up. We both help our strong points be stronger. So there's a novelty really to for these clients that they get to work with a husband and wife duo.
Yep.
So
I think so
it makes
too.
us stronger.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that there's some credibility just in the clients knowing that there's no ulterior motive other than like, this is a family trying to, in our situation, it was like, this is our family is trying to help your family kind of thing, in terms of our clients, because they were families, and it was like, we're a family and we're trying to help your family. Mm-hmm. And I think there was a lot of credibility that was kind of underlying in that, so that they knew that we're just here trying to do good work and help. And I love that y'all have rules in place. I would say our main rule, and I'm curious if y'all have this rule too, was that if we were frustrated or upset about something or even annoyed about something, that nothing could fester. So we would say, if you have a problem, you need to speak it, because when you're together, nearly 24/7, and you're having to switch on and off from business partner mode to parent and spouse mode, those are sometimes hard transitions, to make. And if you have an issue about something, if you just let it kind of fester and start to bubble, then it explodes into something bigger than it needs to be. And we figured that out kind of early on. And so, it was like, we would say, like, you're annoying me right now. You need to go in the other room. And we both respected that. It was like, okay, like, totally get it. Let's work it out and move on. Because you spend too much time together to let things just boil over.
Yeah, we have a awesome counselor.
There you go.
No, I'm serious. We realized that we needed a third party to have some of the harder conversations. And honestly, most of the time when we would go to the counselor, we called it a checkup, and we would just go in together, and he would be like, all right, guys, what's been going on? And we'd be like, oh man, we're good. Like, everything's been awesome lately. And then like 2 minutes into the session, something would pop up, and we were like, oh, we didn't even know that was an issue.
Yeah.
But we had a really great third party to be able to help us kind of see from the other person's perspective, how they were feeling or whatever. And we also have a rule, like, there's a certain point in the night, in the evening, where we don't talk about work anymore.
Yes.
Like, we have like a 15-minute kind of like unpack whenever cause I get home first with the kids, and then he comes home after me, and we'll kind of like unpack for 15 minutes what the other person did that day. Cause a lot of times he's out on set somewhere, he's on location. Yeah. And so I don't actually get to see him every day, all day. It's sporadic during the week. And so we'll catch up, and then I'm like, okay, put your phone down. We're going to have a glass of wine, and we're going to hang with the kids and make dinner, and we're not talking about work anymore.
Good.
Like, we can talk about this tomorrow morning. You can send me an email, and, and we'll do that. Like, we'll send each other an email at nighttime if we're thinking about something. But I don't check my email at night. And so I don't
have to talk about it.
No.
So,
and I know he checks his email, but he's not talking about it.
Yeah.
He's at least not bringing it up. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, I love that. And I'm all for spouse-owned businesses, and being an entrepreneur with your spouse, because I just think it's a really fun, neat, special thing. So, kudos to y'all for doing that with 3 businesses.
Yeah,
and
you guys too.
Thanks. Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. And now I obviously am not in the business, full time, but I still feel like I'm part of it. We say that it was our first child.
Well, yeah, you built it. I mean, you built it.
We built it. I mean? Yeah.
It's something, it is definitely, I feel very honored and privileged that at this point in my life, I'm 33 years old, we've been able to build some really cool stuff together.
Yeah,
and I think our kids are going to be the ones in the long run who really benefit from it the most.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, y'all are doing it the right way, it sounds
Thanks.
like. So, well, I love all that you're doing, and I'm so grateful for what just the content that you're putting out there to encourage women and moms. And I know that you have something that I think would be really valuable to moms really during any season, but especially this holiday season. And, I think that it's something that moms and women can use, whenever they start it into the new year, as they're thinking about just, overall fitness and goals, mental, physical fitness for themselves, faith fitness. So can you tell us about your 21-day guide? Is that the right?
Yeah. So I have a 21-day video devotional series.
That's right. Series is the word I was looking for.
Series called Fitness and the Father. And
there we go.
What I teach in Fitness and the Father is fitness of the mind, fitness of the body, and fitness of the spirit, and how all three of those things are intertwined. So basically what I'm going to lead you through is how to grow in your relationship with God while you are caring for your body physically, and also taking care of your mental health at the same time. It was birthed out of a very terrible season of depression that I went through. I suffer from depression. I've battled it for a very long time. And so I created this with a lot of times Christians, and people are getting better about this. So I have to give props where they're due. People are actually starting to speak out about this, and it's wonderful. But for a long time, people didn't want to talk about depression. They didn't want to talk about anxiety in Christian circles because they thought, well, if you pray about it, it'll go away. Well, that's not always true.
Right.
It certainly can be true, but oftentimes people need either some behavioral therapy medication or some physical lifestyle changes, or all three of those things combined to help get you out of the pit that you're in. And so I created Fitness in the Father out of that experience that I had. And so a lot of the things you'll experience are kind of some of the counseling techniques that I learned, but a lot of really practical things. So if you're looking to grow in your relationship with the Lord and you want to kick the new year off in a healthy way and start to move your body again in a joyful way, not in a, let's do, what's that Beachbody fitness program, Insanity?
Oh, yeah. Insanity.
And I can say that because I was a Beachbody coach at one time.
Yeah, I'm not here for any sort of insanity. Like my life has enough insanity as it is.
So, but yeah, no. And then we'll talk about food, and we'll talk about worship and all sorts of good stuff. So you can sign up for that. It's completely free at fitnessandthefather.com.
Perfect. And I'll link to that in the show notes for those who might not be able to write that down right now. So it'll be linked in the show notes. And it sounds like that's going to be a really great resource for women who are listening. So thank you, Whitney, for all that you're doing and for sharing your story today on the podcast. And remind us where we can find you on YouTube and Instagram. And I'll also link to these things in the show notes as well. But go ahead and tell us where we can find you.
So you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/Whitney Meade. And my Instagram is also Whitney Meade. And my main website is whitneymeade.com.
Very good. Easy enough. And Meade has an E on the end for those who can't see it right now. But so thank you again, Whitney, and keep up the good work. And I wish you well in 2020 as you continue with this work that you're doing. And thank you for listening to the Lord and following on this journey that you're on.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode, and I hope you have a great week and don't get too overwhelmed prepping for the holidays. I'd love to connect with you online. I'm over on Instagram and Facebook at Influential Motherhood, so come find me and say hello. See you next week.